live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Thanks for joining us for 2 News Live on this Friday night. I'm Heidi Hatch. Brian Cheney has the day off. It is Friday, July 21st. We're going in depth tonight on the next presidential election. We're talking 2024, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and presidential hopeful in Utah today. Plus, we're in for a hot holiday weekend. Some tips if you're planning to be outside in the heat. But before we dig into that, we do want to start with some breaking news right now. A very serious situation happening in Weber County. Police confirming a dump truck has crashed into the Pineview Reservoir. Amanda Gilbert is live at the scene. And Amanda, what are you learning from first responders?
Well, Heidi, the biggest thing we want answered is the driver of the dump truck okay? And we unfortunately don't have that answer just yet, but it is still very much an active scene. Again, I am right by the intersection of Trappers Loop and US 39. You can see we've got a heavy police and first responder presence. There's actually, I counted 5 tow trucks out here, and I did see that they are trying to get that dump truck out of the reservoir. We unfortunately can't show you that right now, just with the angle we're at, but we do see actually, it looks like one of the tow trucks is moving, and I'm wondering, Gabe, if we zoom in, if that is the dump truck right there. Got a lot of search and rescue crews kind of standing around the tow truck right now, so let's kind of watch and see what happens. Again, this happened at 4 this afternoon. We do not know yet how the dump truck ended up in the reservoir or if the driver is okay. That we're still working to learn. Obviously, though, a very scary situation. There's caution tape surrounding this area, kind of in that tall grass. It looks like that might be the dump truck there. It looks like it's moving slowly. We are seeing some action here right now. Let's just wait a moment. Again, 5 tow trucks out here. I'd say about 10 to 15 first responder crews along the side of the highway. A very heavy first responder presence. All right, yeah, the truck is moving. I'm wondering if that is the dump truck. We're obviously not able to talk to first responders since we're off in the distance. They've asked us just keep our distance for now. Let's see that there. You know what, Gabe, I might step back in the shot here. So we do have some movement going. Stick with us for 6 to see if we can get some updates for you. Back to you, Heidi.
Amanda, and just to give you an idea of what we're seeing, I know you're pretty far away. Your cameraman can zoom in pretty well. That definitely is the dump truck. What we can't tell at this point is if they had to break glass to get the driver out or rescue them. Certainly been a long time, but that truck was submerged. Have they said anything at this point about whether they were able to pull that driver out and how long it was submerged for?
They have not said anything about that, but one thing we are noticing, it does look like there's a lot of dirt on top of that dump truck. I'm wondering if that was in the truck or if it is from the reservoir, so still working to get answers since they're obviously very busy. Back to you.
And did they say anything about anyone seeing that dump truck go off the road? Because where the road is and where it seems the reservoir is a bit of a drive to get off the road and then into the water.
It is, Heidi. It's actually miraculous that that dump truck didn't hit anyone or crash anyone, because this is a really busy highway. A lot of people are driving by wondering what's going on. So I'm sure there was some witnesses as well.
All right, we are keeping a close eye on this, still wishing for the best and hopefully a miracle there with the driver. We'll check back with you if you get any new information. And again, on 2 News at 6. Amanda, thank you. Also in Utah today, Florida Governor and presidential candidate Ron DeSantis is here. Recent polling shows the governor is ranking 2nd in the state after former President Trump. It is the 2nd visit to Utah for DeSantis in just a few months. Daniel Woodruff live tonight at the state capitol, where the Florida governor spoke about an hour ago. And Daniel, what did he talk about?
Well, he talked about a number of topics. DeSantis really touted his own record in Florida on the economy, on his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. He says he's a governor that gets things done, and he said the country is in decline and he wants to be the one to reverse that. So a lot of the familiar talking points that we've heard from DeSantis. But as you mentioned, Heidi, he has been polling in 2nd place. If you look in the national polls, he's been double digits behind former President Donald Trump. There is a new poll that just came out in Utah from the Deseret News and the Hinckley Institute of Politics. in Utah alone, Donald Trump polling 29% among Republican voters in the state, DeSantis at 24%, so 5 points behind. But then there's a big gap between those two and the other candidates in the race, Mike Pence, Chris Christie, and Liz Cheney coming in after that. So it's an interesting time for DeSantis as his campaign has struggled to gain perhaps as much traction as he'd like to see. But a lot of the supporters here, the lawmakers who endorsed him, seem to be optimistic. And one in particular told me it is still very early. He believes Ron DeSantis can make up ground as we go into the later part of this year.
That will be the interesting thing. We're still a long ways out, and it takes a lot of money to keep running. I noticed that DeSantis' office had to lay off some of its staff trying to conserve some of that campaign cash. I also noticed he was answering questions from reporters who were there on scene as I was coming up here to anchor the news. Anything interesting coming from that question and answer session?
Well, originally I was told he wasn't going to do any media Q&A, so the fact that he did take questions was nice. And then as he was answering questions, a number of topics came up. There was one that I asked him about his polling numbers, and I said, can he realistically parlay support that he got here in Utah into more broad support nationally? He said he believes he can. He says it's a state-by-state effort, and that's something that he's working on. And he says his campaign is doing it in the best of all the candidates, but really the polling will tell the tale on that as to whether he's able to gain more traction as he goes forward. But he answered questions about a controversy right now swirling in Florida surrounding the Department of Education and what's taught about slavery. He answered questions about social media. He got into Disney a little bit and some of the things he's talked about with kids and what they're seeing on TV and other topics as well. So he did take questions for a little bit, and then after about 5 or 6, cut it off and said goodbye and headed down to Utah County, I assume, where tonight he's set to appear at a fundraiser in Pleasant Grove.
Yes, we're going to check on that. And if you want to see more of that news conference where Daniel was live, we have it posted for you on KUTV.com, YouTube, and also you can check it out on Facebook. Now, speaking of that fundraiser for Ron DeSantis, it is going on right now, happening in Utah County. This is by invitation only. DeSantis could get a big cash infusion for this campaign. Brian Malahy is live near where it's happening tonight. And Brian, what are the suggested donations? It's always a pricey ticket if you want to go have dinner and meet a candidate.
It is a very pricey ticket. $13,200 for a couple for a VIP reception. That is slated to start any time, though we have not seen DeSantis roll up yet. $6,600 per person for that reception. $1,000 if you just want the Pioneer Day BBQ. I'm going to step out for a minute, show you where this is. We're not going to identify the address. This was given to me in good faith. Media not invited. We really weren't supposed to know where it's happening, but we found out, so we're here, and we've seen a number of people go in already. This reception is to be from 5:30 until 6:30. 6:30 until 8 o'clock, we understand, is the barbecue. So it's a beautiful setting here. The weather is hot. The sun is out. Governor DeSantis is used to a lot of sunshine. I'm not sure if he's used to this kind of heat, but he'll be here in just a matter of minutes, we expect. Heidi, back to you.
He's used to that heat plus a little humidity. Now, the interesting thing, Brian, is when you're talking about the money they're going to fundraise. In years past, Utah has been called an ATM for a lot of politicians. They'll come through, they'll collect that cash and leave, but they won't even stop and talk. So we're changing things over the last few years. I think since President Trump run, we've been seeing more and more candidates actually make those public appearances and talk so we can hear from them, aside from just gathering cash before they jump on the jet out of town.
Well, that was the thing with Trump. He would hold these rallies in airport hangars, and he was at the Utah State Capitol, and a lot of people were there. He liked to have big rallies. Mitt Romney, conversely, way back when he was running for president, would fly in, get to the Grand America Hotel, raise a bunch of money, go back to the airport, and get out of town. There are people, I think, that are perhaps trending toward what Donald Trump has done. Ron DeSantis, however, has been here before. About a year ago, almost to the day, I covered DeSantis here. He held 2 fundraisers then. We went to both of them. Again, these were invitation only. We weren't supposed to know where they were. The campaign staff shut us out immediately. Private security said we could go no further. And there was one of those fundraisers downtown, another in Deer Valley. So this was different today for DeSantis, and perhaps it may reflect upon the polling nationally. He at least was at the Utah State Capitol. We understand that was supposed to be a public event. Didn't turn out that way, but reporters, as Daniel mentioned, were able to ask questions. Here, this is about as close as we're going to get.
All right, well, you've done your job as a reporter. Eyes on the ground. We'll see who's in there and ready to start backing and supporting DeSantis on that run. Brian, thank you. In this week's Take Two podcast, I talk with Greg Hughes, former Utah House Speaker, congressional candidate, and Mara Carabello with the Exoro Group about DeSantis' visit to Utah and his presidential run.
It's interesting with DeSantis' race. So there was a lot of lawmakers, elected officials that signed a letter a while ago saying, "Please run." Mm-hmm. You're not going to see those same names today. They're not ready to sign up and say I'm endorsing Ron DeSantis right now, and it comes at a time when he's cutting staff. He's starting to pare back in terms of his burn rate on campaign money. He's raised a lot, but it reminds me, or it has the signs of like a Rick Perry back in whatever year that was in Texas, or a Scott Walker from Wisconsin, that they were real bright stars and kind of favorites early on, and then they raised a ton of money, but then they didn't really go anywhere. DeSantis, people are starting to worry that he doesn't have. They all wanted him to run and hurry up and announce, and he has, but there hasn't been kind of the excitement that's come with it.
So I love what Greg is saying, because this is the second wave. There's always this big honeymoon where your angel donors are your friends and family, and everybody looks shiny and everyone looks great. And admittedly, DeSantis is past this. So now the hardest stage to become a real contender, of which I still think Ron DeSantis is positioned to do that, it's whether he can live through this next stage, whether he can live through commentary like Greg just gave you, which is this artful sense of slight doubt, even this like, oh, I wish it wasn't happening, but everyone can see the guy's on stall.
We're keeping a close eye on it, and we'll keep talking about it in this week's podcast. We talk exclusively with Greg Hughes after his loss in the CD2 race, the accusations against Celeste Malloy, who won at convention, and what happens next. You can find my podcast on KUTV.com, iTunes, and Spotify. All right, we are headed into a very hot holiday weekend. Meteorologist Sterling Pilson here with that first alert forecast, and we're going really hot this weekend.
Yeah, we're already really hot at 102 degrees here along the Wasatch Front. St. George has been close to 110 today, may end up at 111, but we're looking at forecasting, possibly record-breaking heat. The heat remains overnight. That's the problem. It really doesn't cool down. Except in some of those cooler valleys, it does cool down a little bit. And then the heat forecast is for the long term. So we're looking at heat continuing all the way through the 24th of July and beyond. Let's do the forecast and we'll show you what we are looking at. And yes, it is going to be toasty hot. 114 in Phoenix. That's actually quite a bit cooler than they were yesterday. It's hard to even say those words, cooler, when you're looking at 114. But 104 in Boise. They've been roasting up there pretty good. And look at Helena, Montana, 96 degrees. 83 in Denver, 99 in Midland, Texas. So the heat dome is right here, as you can see, with those very hot temperatures. Fortunately, Los Angeles is only 73, and San Francisco only 72, and Portland, Oregon is in the 80s, so that's good. 102 in Salt Lake City, 95 is our normal, 106 the record. I doubt we're going to break that today. 95 in Blanding, 109 in St. George. These are right now temperatures, not the highs. 86 in Rock Springs and 98 in Elko, Nevada, and Logan's up to 94. So tomorrow, or tonight, I should say, we'll see those temperatures cooling back into the 70s here along the Wasatch Front. And in some of those cooler valleys will be in the upper 50s and low to mid 60s. So a nice overnight in most spots around the state, except in the highly populated areas where it'll be warmer. 97 in Richfield tomorrow, 99 in Cedar City, 112 in St. George, 106 in Page, and 100 degrees in Logan, 102 in Ogden for the highs tomorrow. There is a little bit of moisture this afternoon. That kind of dies out. And then tomorrow we have a little disturbance coming in from the southwest. So we do pick up a few more thunderstorms all the way from Richfield north and west almost to Wendover. And then as we move through the evening hours, those kind of fizzle out. But Sunday we have a little more moisture sticking around. So we could see an isolated thunderstorm or two. Heat advisories in many locations where we're looking at those temperatures, 95 to 100 degrees. And the excessive heat warnings, of course, for the Wasatch Front, the southern valleys of southwestern Utah, including St. George, the Lake Powell Recreation Area under that excessive heat warning. But we're not expecting any flash flooding tomorrow, but still check the forecast before you head into those canyons. 104 at Arches, 107 at Zion National Park, Bryce Canyon 87, and Capitol Reef 91. And Jordanelle, the water temperature, well, it's right now 70 degrees, the water temperature, and the temperatures tomorrow should be in the mid-80s. So that'd be a great place to go and cool down, but make sure you got the sunblock because the UV index is right up there around 100 or around 12, the UV of 12, which is high. Hot temperatures continue even after the 24th of July. We continue to see those hot temperatures as that high pressure still hangs out across the western United States all the way through the end of the month. The 7-day forecast calling for those temperatures to hang out there in the triple digits above 104 for the next 7 days, and in some places above 110. And for Salt Lake City, we're looking at those highs right around 105 down to 103. And then we finally drop into the 90s Wednesday and Thursday. Our normal high now is 95. Our maximum normal high comes up in next week when it's 96, and then we start getting cooler again.
Whew. My Oscar Stinky Bean at home got his summer haircut finally, so he'll be pleased ahead of this 105. It is hot out there. Definitely have to be careful with your pets out there and if you're heading out.
Yep.
All right, Sterling, thank you. We want to hear from you at home about this. What is the best weekend activity to escape Utah's peak summer heat? Scan the QR code on your screen to weigh in. Right now, the majority of you say you're going to the pool or the lake, playing games inside in the AC. Hey, if you still can and there's spots, go camping. So much cooler up in our mountains right now. We do want to thank you for joining us for 2 News Live tonight. We will be back here at 5:30 Monday through Friday. I'll be here again on Monday. We hope you join us for more in-depth conversations on the topics that matter to you and your family. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week or again next on 2 News at 6 o'clock.